Well, good evening, good evening, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Wednesday's basic training. I'm going to go to the chat box and say hello to a few people. We're going to get started in about 2 minutes. Let's see who we have out there. Welcome, Maureen from Maryland, Bessie from Mobile. Welcome. Hello, Tamika and Wanda from Bakersfield, Devette from Nashville, Kathy from Arkansas. Welcome. Keith and Dia from right here in Georgia, Tracy from Humble, Texas, Queens, New York. I see Johns Creek, Director Johnson, Crystal from Connecticut, and the names are scrolling really fast now. Carlene Graham, I saw Cheryl Rogers, welcome. Where else do we have? Atlanta, Orlando, Ellenwood, Georgia, New Jersey, New Orleans, stay safe, Philadelphia, Ohio, wonderful, Raleigh, North Carolina, Debbie Johnson, welcome, Alex from Atlanta, Scott and Caroline from York, Pennsylvania, great evening, everyone. Tanya, Donna, Deneen, Teresa, welcome, Nikia, hello, Virginia, Carlene from Stevenson, Tennessee, Huntsville, Alabama, on the webinar, Vanessa Gaskins, welcome, Charlotte, North Carolina, great evening. Trudy Scott, Director Scott, Rena Grimes from Chicago, Illinois, welcome. Welcome, welcome everyone. Joan and Diane from California, great evening. Cindy from Orland Park, welcome. Michelle, I see you. Gail Johnson from Lithonia, welcome. Welcome everyone. It's right at 7 o'clock, great evening. We're gonna go ahead and get our training started. So super excited to be here. My name is Eileen Ross. I'm a 5-star director here at Planet Marketing, and I have the pleasure of co-hosting this training this evening. I'm gonna bring up my brothers in success. You know them both, you love them both. We're so excited to have them as well. First, I'm gonna bring up the #2 income earner in all of Planet Marketing. This gentleman is a 6-star director, which means his team eclipsed 10,000 active agents. This gentleman wears the diamond ring, signifying earnings of over $500,000 in a 12-month calendar period on a residual basis. He's a director maker over and over again. He's a founding director, #2 income earner, 6-star director, the general, we call him, Mr. Orlando Moore. Do I have you here on the webinar with us?
Absolutely, Miss Eileen Ross. I am on the webinar tonight, and I am flat out excited. And Miss Ross, you said nothing about yourself during that introduction, and that's the humility you've always displayed ever since I've personally known you. But I do want those individuals to know who might have just gotten started in the company. They might not have been around for the last month or so they might not know who you are. I have the privilege of sharing with them that you are the #4 income earner out of the 57,000 plus active travel advisors that came through Planet Marketing Representatives. Ms. Ross, you currently sport the presidential diamond ring, which signifies your income is at a minimum $500,000 annually. And Ms. Ross, you have an organization well over for thousands and thousands of people. You will be the next 4-star director. I'm sorry, 6-star director in our company, Ms. Ross. You don't hit 4 or 5, and you're producing 4 and 5s. So I'm super excited to be on the webinar with you tonight to train the incredible champions here at Planet Marketing.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, Mr. Moore. And we're going to bring up our brother in success. This gentleman is the #1 income earner in all of Planet Marketing out of those 57,000 active agents. He's been the first at everything. The first one to join the company, the first one to hit bronze, silver, gold, 1-star, 2-star, 3-star, 4-star, 5-star, and now 6-star director. He has a team, of course, that has eclipsed well over 10,000 active agents. He sports that double diamond ring. What does that mean? He earns a minimum of $83,333 each and every month. We call him Mr. Fabulous, Fantastic, and Amazing, founding director, brother in success, master trainer, Mr. Shedrick White. Do I have you on the line, on the webinar with us this evening?
Ms. Eileen Ross, there's no place I'd rather be. I have to greet you as well as my brother, Mr. Orlando Moore, and the entire planet. I'm honored to be here and happy to be here. How you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Always super excited to train and share knowledge with the great business partners of Planet Marketing. And last week we talked about PS3. We talked about piquing interest. So we thought, what's the best way to segue? What's the next thing we should talk about? We should talk about showing the plan, right? Pique interest, show the plan, 3-way call. But today we're going to really dive into showing the plan. Mr. White, You really did a fantastic job of putting this information together. What should be the takeaway? What do we talk about some of the things that we're going to cover, and why is showing the plan such an integral part of that PS3?
Ms. Eileen Ross, it's really phenomenal, and I love the way that we've broken this up, because a lot of times we say PS3, and a lot of times we try to condense that into one section. But I love the ingenuity of you and Mr. Moe. You're saying, let's put an example so people can get it. So one of the things we talk about showing the plan, a lot of people are excited, they're talking to people, but they say, I can't get them to look at anything. They won't call me back. And so we know that these are skills, and we want to help you develop these skills. So when we say show the plan, we want to show people not only how to get people to the tools, but ultimately how they can become that expert like you and Mr. Moore, where they can articulate the information. They're not dependent on the tool, but they become the tool. Ms. Ross.
Absolutely. So let's just dive right in. So now we've handled last week, you piqued their interest. Well, now what? What do you do after you pique the interest, right? What you have done, actually, you've created curiosity. They obviously want to know more. Now you want to give or lead your prospect to an effective presentation. Mr. Moore, can you talk about the differences between an invitation and a presentation? I think that's something that people really need to understand, that we are not trying to present to people as we try to show the plan. We want to invite. Mr. Moore.
Absolutely, Ms. Ross. Again, this is very key when you talk about the invitation, not the presentation. The invitation is the act of inviting, right? The written or spoken form, which a person is invited. Now, Ms. Ross, me personally, this is just an extra nugget. My invitation, because I know it's personal, I want you to hear me. Now, I do send text messages. I do send instant messages. I do communicate via email, but the most effective is through the verbal invitation. And oftentimes people hide behind the text message, the Facebook post, the Instagram post, the stories, as opposed to picking up the phone and calling people and extending a personal invitation. Now, the presentation is a demonstration or lecture, a manner or style of speaking, instructing or putting oneself forward. So in the invitation, when you talk about inviting them to take a look at something, and again, we'll cover the tools as well, you want to be inviting, not presenting. Understand the invitation should be personal. And if you have a chance, pick up the phone, because that invitation verbally extended lets the person really understand how valuable you see them, not just about you. But the invitation, Ms. Ross, when you call me, it's personal for me now.
And I think that's really, really, really important. I'm sure myself, Mr. White, and Mr. Moore, we've talked to so many people, and they say, I've invited a lot of people. I've invited 100 people. Well, we know you didn't call 100 people. What you did, you put maybe a flyer out on your Facebook page and hope 100 people will see it. Or maybe you sent 100 text messages out. But when you send a group text, it's no longer personal. So what Mr. Moore said was so powerful, and I really want this to drive home with you. Picking up the phone in this era of lack of that type of communication, when my phone rings, I know that when I look at the name, oh, that person is talking to me. When I pick up the phone and they share, as Mr. Moore said, their enthusiasm, I know that it means something to them. We have lost the art of that kind of connection. So that means when someone does call me, I know that it's really important to them. So it's really important because at first you're talking to people you know anyway. Pick up the phone and call them. And the other text messages or Facebook inboxes, those are confirmations, right? But know the difference between the invitation and the presentation and the fact that it needs to be personal. Now, the duplication process. It says 75% of the business is learned before the person ever joins. What you do is what they perceive they must do. Mr. White, you really know how to drive this home, and you say this over and over again about duplication and how, explain what you mean when you say the business is learned before the person ever joins.
Ms. Ross, this is a key that I learned earlier on, because I was doing a whole bunch of talking and I was so frustrated, like, man, they're not listening. I thought I was saying the same thing, but I was throwing up on people or regurgitating on people, right? If I could be more technical, right? So I apologize, but I was just giving all this information and I thought, man, I'm excited, I'm pumped up, but they kept saying no, they kept not getting on. And that's when what Mr. Moore explained, my mentor said, listen, 75% of businesses talk before the person. John, so what do you mean? They said what you do is what they perceive they got to do. So if you pass out flyers, if you're doing a whole bunch of stuff, if you're making it complicated, then you're making them feel like, I don't have time to do that. I can't do that. That's too much. And so what I discovered, Ms. Ross, is a lot of times we very creative. You know, I've heard you say, spare me your brilliance. We come in with all these ideas of what we want to do, and we think we got a better way. But what we don't understand is about duplication. Yes, and that's why, you know, even when we have presentation, we think we have to say something different every time. But when we really begin to understand that good doesn't count, only duplication does, then we understand ultimately I'm learning these skills not so people can be impressed with me, so they can be impressed with the information, and the information is the star, Ms. Ross.
And let me just say how important that is. That's another very important point. You know, you may think, oh, you know, I want to invite, so I'm going to buy these amazing, beautiful invitations with the foil in the middle, or I want to do calligraphy. No, it's got to be simple. Because when I get that invitation, the first thing I'm going to think is that, oh my gosh, I've got to learn calligraphy. No, it's the same thing when we do the travel showcases. I know I'm digressing a bit, but we're talking about duplication. When you go out and you do a spread, everyone else thinks that they want to do a spread. The last question is, can your people do what you do? You may be a master artist. You may be a great organizer of amazing parties, but this is about duplication and really sharing some information in a simple format so that people come in understanding, not only can I remain excited about what it is that I'm about to embark on, but I now know how to invite because of how I was invited to the information. Now, Mr. Moore, the less you say, the more that you make. Why is that important? How? And I know some people on the line are saying, that doesn't make any sense to me. I say less and I make more. What does that mean, Mr. Moore?
Well, Ms. Ross, bottom line up front, again, Mr. White just alluded to it and talked about throwing up on people, right? And by doing that, especially as a new person, you run people away. You run people away because they thinking, okay, I got to know all of that. I have to say all of that. So the less you say, the more you really make. When you become that professional inviter for them to take a look at, right, whatever it might be. Ladies and gentlemen, again, we always say that Don King made more money in boxing than any fighter that ever stepped in the ring. He was the promoter. And when you think about that, when you say, the less you say, the more you make, the reason being you rob the prospect of the ability to make an educated decision, right? And people make conclusions of what you share. So if I'm explaining everything, I'm giving you the whole rundown as opposed to my invitation for you to take a look at it. See, now I just deprived you. And you made a decision of what I said. And I'll be transparent, Ms. Ross, early on, I was messing it up. I was jacking it up. I was edifying instead of edifying. I was saying all the wrong things, not knowing it, but I was excited. But if I would say it less and a lot of tools to do the heavy lifting, and again, we'll cover the tools in a second, it would have made a huge difference in my business early on. Don't attempt to explain everything, whether you're in person, whether you're on the phone, whether you're even in Messenger. And I seen people, hey, this is what I sent to my prospect. They sent an essay in Messenger, Ms. Ross. They explained everything. And the person, they wonder why they're in the witness protection program. Well, they won't call me back. Well, they already made a decision. They've already made a decision. And all this ties from what we talked about last week, piquing the interest, building that rapport. Well, you done threw up on them now, you lost them, right? And that's why you say less and you make more. Ms. Ross?
And again, I just want to reiterate to everyone, you should be excited that you don't have to say a whole lot. And we're going to talk about some of the things you can say, but be excited about that. It's about the message and not the messenger. The information is not about you and all that you know. It's about the information that they're going to receive. So really take that to heart. The less you say, the more you will make, because now people are going to make their decision based on what they see as opposed to what you told. All right, let's move on. Now we're going to talk about, oh, here it is. A prospect will say, just tell me what it is. And I know many of you have heard this before. Ms. Ross, what do I say when they ask me to tell them what it is? I can't just say, take a look at this information. Yes, you absolutely can. So when they say, just tell me what it is, you're going to say, I would love to, but it's a 100% visual. The information is visual. It's something that you need to see. And 99% of the time, that's how you saw the information. You saw something visual. So you want to make sure you pass that down. And when they're seeing something visual, they can make the determination of how this business model fits them, as opposed to you telling them what you think they want to hear or what may even be attractive to you. So understand, you don't have to give the information. You let them know, I want you to see it in the best possible way, and then all of your questions will be answered. Now, the purpose of the presentation, Mr. White, let's talk about this. What is the purpose of the presentation? We're telling people to say less, but now we're going to send them to this presentation. What is the purpose?
Well, Ms. Ross, I think that this is important because I want people to understand they're going to start out as a student, but eventually they're going to become the expert. And so when you look at a presentation, there's several things that the focus of a presentation is to do. One is to inform them, right? So when you invite, whether they look at a tool, this video, whatever, the information is to inform them. We also, when I say persuade, they have a way of thinking. And so when they hear the information, it begins to change the way they think. They go from thinking about being in just a consumer, oh, I travel, but now we're talking about, have you considered owning a business? Well, guess what? Now we need to educate them on the industry. They didn't know, right? Ms. Ross said, travel is the most searched word online. So when you start educating them, you enlighten them. And you know, if you're around Mr. Moore, I only got one or two good jokes, but you know, what happens, we also want them to be involved, or we want them to be entertained, but we're not trying to make it funny, but we also want them to begin to understand that travel is fun, it's enjoying, so what we're talking about this particular point is really when you look at the presentation. Sometimes people look at the presentation and they say, I've seen that before. You know, I've seen that before, but if you begin to understand what's taking place, see, y'all make it look so good, but they don't understand that you guys are doing this. You're informing the guests, you're persuading the guests, you're educating the guests, you're closing, you're entertaining, you're getting them involved, you're getting them engaged. And I want them to understand, so now when they start looking at the presentation, when they start hearing the live presentations, they start seeing it more than just, oh, I heard this before. They start saying, oh, I see what they're doing. So eventually they become that person. Ms. Ross.
Absolutely. Mr. Moore, would you like to add anything to the purpose of the presentation? Informing, persuading, educating, enlightening, entertaining, involving?
Absolutely, Ms. Ross. Again, it's funny because I was just about to shoot you a text and ask you if I can caveat to that. Because honestly, what I was thinking about our presentation, the Planet Marketing presentation, if you think about this, guys, and again, we're talking about the purpose of it when you're showing the plan. If you think about our presentation, the first thing we ask people to do is to imagine. Right? And I wanted to make this point because even when we created the presentation, we knew that the purpose was these things you see on the screen. But the first thing we said was, imagine is a hypnotic word. Yeah, think about that. So if I said to you, hey, stand up, you'll think about, well, why are you asking me to stand up? If I ask you, hey, go over there and sit down, you might, why do you want me to sit? But if I say, imagine, whatever follows that word imagine, you're going to do it automatically because the word imagine is hypnotic. It's a hypnotic word, meaning you're going to do it. Imagine time freedom. Imagine personal freedom. Imagine, right, the financial freedom. What does that look like for you? When you start to imagine, that's why we do that up front, because we want the prospect to imagine those things. Because how many of you can truly say, until you heard somebody ask you to do that, you really imagined what time freedom looked like? No, because of the day-to-day operation, the rat race. Did you really imagine what financial freedom would look like until somebody said, imagine this? Chances are you didn't. So I wanted to share that up front, Ms. Ross. We're talking about the purpose of the presentation. That word imagine is a hypnotic word. And if we get people to imagine those things, and then as we roll out the presentation and they see, now they informed, now they persuaded, now they educated, now they enlightened, they entertain, and they get to be involved because we started out involving them through their imagination. Ms. Ross?
And just to caveat even a little further, the two words that I really want to focus on are educate and enlighten. Because too many people, you think you have to recruit people, sell people something, persuade them, convince them, and all those things. Yes, you have to persuade, but it's not a begging business. So what I really like to share with people, when you are showing the plan or when the plan is being shown, we want to educate them about the power of entrepreneurship. Enlighten them on how they've been traveling, how they can do it better. Really show them, involve them in the income process of the multiple streams of income. So when you start to realize that you are really out to help people and empower them and educate them, they think of network marketing in one manner. We can show them how we're different. They think of travel in one manner. We can show them how they are missing out on the income streams associated with that industry. So really keep those things in mind, educating, empowering, and all the other things that Mr. White and Mr. Moore shared. Now, all great leaders were first great followers. And I love when Mr. White talks about this slide because he really drives home the point about going from bad to great. Mr. White, can you talk about this slide? Why all great leaders were first great followers, and what does that mean?
Ms. Ross, I was excited because here's the thing. Sometimes, again, people see, okay, the income that we make, they see the rings and they aspire, but they don't realize that we messed it up a whole bunch. And sometimes because they didn't get to see the stuttering on a conference call or it dropping and us fumbling, but we just kept doing it, they're so intimidated to do anything. So what we really want to do is kind of minimize. I don't want to take anything away from who you are, who Mr. Moore, because you guys are amazing. Y'all make it look so easy. But I think when we share our transparent moments, they actually say, wow, you did it. So we got too many people who are scared to take the shot. We got too many people who they want to make the money, but they don't present. And I am saying we use the tools. Don't get me wrong. We want you to use the tools, but at some point you got to learn the presentation. At some point, you got to be able to do the presentation. Now, before you can be a great leader, you got to be a good follower. So you should be taking notes. You should be learning. But when you understand eventually, you got to go from the back of the room to the front of the room. The people at the front of the room making the money, guys, then you go to the back of the room, then you'll embrace the challenge and you'll learn your material. And so what it says, when you really look at leaders, you first got to be a great leader before you become a good follower. That's what that means. Secondly, you can't be scared to take the shot. Mess it up. I mean, you'll hear Mr. Moore as well as Ms. Ross take my name, mess it up. And guys, I'm going to tell you, man, there's times I've done presentations, I was like, oh my God, it was just horrible. And then the people, you know what I noticed? They looked at it, they said, wow, if he can do it, I can do it. See, sometimes I messed up on words. I would say things, I wasn't trying to be funny, but they would look at it like, oh man, that's why I tell people, you can like, if he can do it, I know I'm about to get paid. So what I want people to understand, before you can be great, like Ms. Ross, like Ms. Moore, you're going to be good. Before you can be good, guess what? You're going to be bad. Before you can be bad, you got to get started. Your first presentation is going to be your worst one, but you're always going to get better after that. Ms. Ross, I just wanted people to understand that they just got to take the shot and not be scared to mess it up, because if they keep doing it long enough, before you know it, then they'll become great like you, Mr. Moore.
Let me tell you something. Be clear, and I'm going to ask Mr. Moore to talk about this as well. The only reason that I can do the presentation is because I've done it so many times. That's the other exciting thing about this business model. Nothing changes. I mean, you do the same things over and over again, and anything you do over and over again, you get really, really good at it, right? The first presentation that I did, I was terrified. Number one, I do not like to speak at all. Maybe that's a shock to some people. I don't like to speak. I would get on the international calls, and I would get on right at 9 o'clock because I didn't want to hear the dings. I'm an introvert, so in public speaking, I mean, I was terrified. And then I'm in Atlanta, the White House of Planet Marketing. Again, I was afraid. But when Mr. Bradley said to me, Eileen, it's not about you. Forget about your fears. It's about the people. It's about the people that need to be enlightened and educated in that room. And it's about the people that are in the audience that need to see that I can overcome fears. But I can tell you something. Yes, I messed it up many times, got the facts wrong, stuttered, terrified, but guess what? Once you do it the one time, everything is hard until you do it for the first time, and then you keep getting better at it. Mr. Moore, do you have any first time experiences in doing the presentation? No, I'm sure you were great right away.
Absolutely not, Ms. Ross. Look, even tonight, y'all heard me messing up some words tonight, Ms. Ross, but the fact is, I keep doing it. You got to keep doing it over and over and over again. What I always tell people is that successful people have those successful habits, unsuccessful people don't. And the fact is that you stated, you get good at what you do. The question is, what are you doing? And if you're not doing it, there's no way you can get good at it. But guys, every single person should learn how to do this presentation. It's simple, number one, and people get to see you really know what you're talking about. You get to know your business, and you leveraging. And again, when you don't have a presentation, see, that separates you from the person who needs the tools, resources, all those things. They're great, but what if you catch somebody, that 30-second elevator speech? You're not hesitant to do that because you already got it down pat. You know what levels to hit. So it's very important. And again, last but not least, all great leaders were great followers. Here's the other thing I'll say to that, Ms. Ross. All great leaders are still great followers because they're following somebody. Mr. Bradley has a billionaire mentor, multi-billionaire. Think about that. All great leaders are always great followers. Ms. Ross?
Absolutely. So let's talk about the 7 C's of communication. When we're giving a presentation, this is how we're effective, because there are certain things that we are doing. And we're going to go through these things together. I'll start with the first one. The presentation should communicate clearly your message to your prospect. Communicate clearly. What's our message, right? Who are we? Planet Marketing and IntelliTravel. What is it? It's travel partnered with entrepreneurship and network marketing. When? Right now. Where? 21 different countries, and why? Because we are offering people those 3 freedoms, right? And again, when they see the message, they can see for themselves. They can see themselves. I love what Mr. Moore talked about, that word imagine. And I know that throughout the entire presentation, when people are watching it, they are imagining themselves, not only on the beaches of the world, but wearing those rings as well. Mr. White, you want to talk about the connection with the audience?
Absolutely, Ms. Ross. I think it's really important that you really, first you put yourself in their shoes, you know who your audience is, but you connect with them. And guys, again, people want to save money, people want to spend time. I think that's what we share your story. And somebody connects with you so they can realize, wow, you was just like me. So when you share your story, the purpose of the presentation is to connect with them so they can see, hey, if this made sense for you, if it worked for you, perhaps it could work for me.
Mr. Moore, clarity, which the presentation should provide clarity.
And Ms. Ross, honestly, a person should not leave the presentation not knowing what you want them to do. And we heard Mr. Bradley share that testimony the first time he was exposed to the industry, how the lady had a lei around her neck, just got back from Hawaii, but he wasn't traveling. He was struggling at the time, raising his family of 5, 4 children, a lovely wife. He didn't need to be going to Hawaii. So he didn't know what she really wanted him to do. But then there was a gentleman that approached him later with clarity and said, you travel anyway, or you desire to travel, you should be in this travel business. Right? He was traveling for business and what he was doing in sales, marketing, and distribution. So he made it plain for him. So the same thing we do even today, Ms. Ross, we always ask for the check, is what I call it, right? The clarity is, we want your partnership. Man, I would love you to be in business with us so we can help you achieve your goals. Clarity is very key when you talk about the presentation.
I'm going to talk about an effective presentation should be concise and concrete. A presentation gets to the point, not filled with a lot of fluff. Very, very, very important. Mr. Bradley always talks about, universal appeal, really being professional. And so what we want to do, our presentation is not a comedy show. The presentation is not how wonderful you are. It's not about all the things that you have. It's about the information, right? What's great is that our slides really cover everything. So it needs to be concise and concrete. And it says brevity is important because people have a short attention span. We need to get to the point, right? Just really get to the point. We like to be the home of the 60-minute meeting. We really want that to be the home of the 54-minute meeting, because we want to, first of all, let people know we are going to get in and out. We're going to be concise, concrete, and really get you the information to make a quality decision. So it's very important. Mr. White, presentation is answering concerns.
Ms. Ross, the thing about it is we share what, like you said, you had an aversion of network marketing. So when somebody's sitting there and they have the same thing, you're answering their concerns. What you're doing is really closing throughout the presentation. You're answering their objections or common objections. And so that's the biggest thing what we're doing. We're letting them know, as Mr. Moore said, we want your partnership, but we're walking through a process so we answer your concerns throughout the presentation. When we get to the end, we get the final yes, or get you to collect that check.
Mr. Moore, the conveying of the presentation. What are we conveying?
And that's powerful, Ms. Ross. And again, it's one thing to have a message, but how are you conveying the message? And this is one of the, I would say out of the 7, probably one of the most important. It's one thing to have the communication, but how are you doing it? Connecting, great. Clarity, great. Concise, concrete. Concerns, but how are you conveying the message? That's what's really powerful, because now you're talking to that person, that prospect, about the benefits, right? And again, the features that your prospect will receive, all things we talk about. We know in the travel industry, it's different as an insider as opposed to an outsider. That's why we conveyed that message that, hey, listen, this is what we have access to as an educational trip. These educational trips, you don't have access to that right now. So we conveyed that message. Here are the guarantees you will receive when you decide to partner with us. We're going to guarantee your success. And on the marketing side of the business, guess what? Access to not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but 7 streams of income. Wealth building principles is what you have access to when you partner with us. Conveying the message is extremely important, Ms. Ross.
Absolutely. And the goals of the presentation, to answer the prospect's questions and or their concerns so that they can take advantage of the opportunity and get involved. You have to understand sometimes it takes multiple exposures to get that prospect from prospect to partner. Now, what we're going to get into right now is what presentation should I use? What video to send? What are the tools? Let's jump right into the tools because that's the goal. Exposure tools. Mr. White, you want to talk about some of these exposure tools here?
Absolutely. Again, obviously, Ms. Ross, we're quarantined, but again, these are the tools. And like a carpenter, we got to get good, but one at a time. While learning, you learn how to do it. So travel party is a showcase where you invite people to your home. It may be called a private business session, a PBR. This is where you actually showcase your business. Why I like this one is because it's personable, where people come to a big presentation in your home, they're a lot more comfortable. And then a lot of times they make decisions. I'll just take all three of these real quick. The Planner Marketing website, I love this tool because a lot of times if you read, I love sending people to, in my opinion, the best tool is our website because it has all the information on both sides, the travel as well as the marketing. And then when we get quarantined, I can't wait. The local meeting where you get to leverage one another, where I get to put my guests in front of you or Mr. Moore and all the top leaders. That's why I don't understand why people don't take advantage of that more, because the local meeting is amazing. And now we see that we had to move the webinars or the meetings online. And so if you're not using those tools and getting your guests in front of Ms. Eileen Ross and Mr. Moore and all the top leaders, man, you're missing it. These are just some of the tools, Ms. Ross.
Let's talk about some others. Mr. Moore, other exposure tools that we have that people can take advantage of.
And Ms. Ross, again, very important. One-on-one presentation, right? Two-on-ones, conference calls, launch calls, verbal overview, the test drive of the website walkthrough, the state of the planet, right? Every Sunday night. My goodness, if we're not leveraging those tools, and for the people who might be wondering, well, how do I leverage those tools? Why? Because it's the culture. The person gets to see the winning culture, the winning environment. All these tools are conducive to their success. Very important we use these tools, Ms. Ross.
Absolutely. Again, we've got the mobile app, instantly being able to send out information via video format. We've got the big events, Super Saturdays, Eagle Weekend, convention, of course, right? Lifestyle events, our national convention. So many different exposure tools right at your fingertips, right in your back office, available for you to participate in every single month around the world. So think about this. Take advantage of all these tools that you have access to. We have other tools, and Mr. Moore, Mr. White, I want you to share this. You talked about the carpenter. Talk about being a carpenter and the tools.
Ms. Ross, I just think at the end of the day, and as we wrap up, I just want people to understand that you're over time going to get good. You're going to discover the prospects kind of let you know what tool to use. I think sometimes people get in a box and what video do I see and what do I do? Sometimes you want to sit down with people when you're able to. Sometimes you want to get them to the presentation. It's multiple exposure, so it's not just one. Take advantage of the tools, and I'm going to leave my favorite line, the last line, to Mr. Moore, because again, he says it perfectly. We got a lot of tools, Ms. Ross.
Mr. Moore, closing comments. And the last line of this slide belongs solely to you, Mr. Moore.
None of our tools work unless you do. Very important, very important. Haven't you worked hard your entire life? Use the tools, guys. None of the tools work unless you do. Thank y'all so much. Phenomenal training, Mr. White, Ms. Ross. Thank y'all so much. To all the Planet reps out there, guys, exercise these tools.
Absolutely. Well, you just participated in learning about the tools you have here. Today, we talked about showing the plan. Next week, what are we going to talk about? The three-way call. You don't want to miss it. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen, for showing up for your success by participating in tonight's training. Make it a great income-producing week. Stay safe and use your tools. Bye-bye, everyone.
Wash your hands. Wash your hands.